Sometimes we. Hey, all right.
No, not this kind of interesting.
It's the time.
But I wonder if it will radicalize them more as a generation, make them more activists in a way that like my generation, I don't think that really happened, you know, for the majority. Most of people survive.
What decade were you in, young, whatever you call that?
I'm Gen
teenagers?
X, so I'm 53 right now, so like I graduated high school in '89, college in '93, and undergrad, so I don't feel like the majority
was-
were very like activist. There was a Gulf War going on, so there was some protesting for that, but I still don't think, like compared to now, like, you know,
What did you say, the nineties?
I was a 90s kid.
Nineties, was there something that radicalized you in the nineties?
I was pretty bent out of shape when Kurt Cobain died, but I listened to his music. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a stupid thing. But anyways, welcome everybody to the DEIB committee meeting and we'll get started. We have, I think, a number of things we did not meet last month, so please remind me and bring up a couple of things, and I'm gonna try and there isn't the full quiver of members here tonight, so we may not. I don't know, is there anybody online?
Was Mariana gonna be able to come to this?
I didn't know one way or the other.
Margo could not.
Yeah. So we may try and, I might delegate things if it's possible, and if not, we'll try and delegate by email. Just a couple of, they shouldn't be too difficult, but the first thing we're going to do is I'm gonna say welcome, and we will go through and just say who's here today. I'm Matt Powers and I'm on the council.
Lori Carpenter, Library Director.
Summer Sunderland, I'm on this community member.
Malcolm Imshoot, I'm a committee member. Yeah. And Oscar for that. This started as
Yeah.
introduce.
I'm Mariana Calderon, a DEIB committee member and resident of Orono.
Great. All right, so I think I have one more of these for you. Last committee meeting, we were looking over changes and I tried to incorporate everybody's changes, so if you see something that is
Oh, we got,
yay.
now we have one.
Hello.
Adriana.
It's good to see you.
Sorry, I may not have a copy for you, Adriana. Actually, I do. Here,
I have so much to catch up to, so.
Here, just give this to Adriana, I can look at it on my computer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, anyways, I need it here anyways, because that way I can make changes. Everybody have a copy? Or copy? Alright, so these were, I tried to incorporate all the changes and I'm sorry, I did not get these out until last week. I should have done it like a month ago or 2 months ago, but here we are, so let's take a look at it and I can make any changes. Yeah, sorry. And if there's anything you guys remember that I didn't put in, but I think I got everything I noted down.
Thank you for doing all that, man.
Is this from the council yet, or is this still
This is-
with us?
This is with us tonight. I wanna kind of have our agreement of these are the changes we want, and then I will submit them to the council. Not next council meeting, well, maybe on for next council meeting, which would be Monday, but I'd have to get this out by Thursday. But
One thing I've been thinking about is wanting to have in here, like this branch that I'm kind of like championing of like learning together and having some kind of language in here around us creating opportunity. I mean, we have it kind of, but like, I like the language of purposefully learning together. And I would love for that to be part of our charge, that we create opportunities to learn together about issues related to DEIB. like in the community.
How about in number one, adding that word learning after diversity, comma, learning, comma, and a strong sense of belonging.
Are you in number one on the
Which-
top or the
Yeah.
Or priorities.
core priorities?
Okay, number one.
Are the core priorities from the council though? Or like it would be adding ours down bottom or?
This is all put together
Okay,
through kind of, yeah, through the prior committee and then mostly, I think.
yeah. I guess I don't know off the top of my head if it should be under the core or under the charge. Core
Right.
priorities or charge.
I think if we just change the language a little bit, I think that's what, sorry, I forgot your name. Malcolm, sorry, Malcolm proposed. I was wondering if we could just add, identify, encourage and learn. Or, or maybe on the third one, we could do, identify resources and learn. I mean, just change the language to include that instead of creating a new item. Because learning, I think, is part of the process also for everything.
I will also say, I think that, right, that top part from the way that it's written as I understand it. Reads as the town council articulating these priorities for itself, and the
Right.
committee charge being.
I see.
Right, that's how I'm
see.
thinking it as well,
Okay.
yeah. I feel like it might be down
Yeah.
here
At the bottom.
somewhere,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think that I think that your point of including learning in some way would fit into number 3, I think, kind of in that sense. Or
I don't,
potentially,
for me, like, it is different than helping people participate in
Yeah.
governance, like I'm just thinking like, okay, cause I'm contemplating selling my house, like, this is on my mind, like, what if I move? I would love for this to continue, like I started this book group through the library where we're learning together, and like, I want that to continue in some form where we're purposefully making sure that we have something like that going regularly to learn together as a community, because without that, I don't know how you change the hearts and minds as much as we could with that.
What if we had maybe like
Could there be educational opportunities in number 2 somehow?
Yeah.
Community educational opportunities?
I personally want the term learning together versus educating, because educating is very hierarchical, like I'm showing up and educating you. And none of us know what a decolonized world looks like, and so I feel like I just like the language of learning together. It's a fine point, but.
here we
But
go.
it's,
How
it
about
seems
this?
like it could go.
Create,
Yeah.
how about create opportunities to learn together within the community.
Yeah, our community opportunities to learn together,
Create opportunities to learn together, learn
yeah. And just
to learn.
I think that's
in
sort
structured
of
ways, maybe.
embedded on the second item, but I agree with you that creating greater awareness is parallel, is not
I
substitute.
feel like it's not quite the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same, so,
Yeah.
but I think it goes within that
I agree,
idea.
I think under number
Yeah.
2 is good to put it in there,
I
yeah.
could see it within number 2.
Mhm.
We're just talking about where to put the word learning, which
Mhm.
summer notice is kind of missing, but
Mhm.
where should we just say?
Learning
So
together.
I just put a second sentence at the end of 2, so it goes, so this is, I'm gonna read the whole thing here. Create greater awareness about opportunities to advance issues of age, race, gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender expression, sexual identity, ability, language, family circumstances, and cultural backgrounds to ensure concerns are heard and considered when creating town council policy and ordinances. Create opportunities to learn together within the community. Is that like out of left field there, or do you know that?
So this is funny.
Yeah,
but
it's something other than create twice.
I think the
Don't wanna-
create learning experiences should go first. And then create
Okay.
learning opportunities,
And
and greater awareness. Or, I mean, I think
Okay, I
learning
could
should
go
come
with that
first.
order too, and then I would say, can we make different numbers items? So 2 becomes the create learning opportunities, 3 becomes create greater awareness.
And
And
Yeah.
You want it to be a whole separate?
I think so, because number 2 has to do with ensuring concerns are heard within town policy and ordinances, and we don't want
they're
to.
separate things,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
We don't want to water that.
and I
down,
think
but you're
that
saying.
highlights
community learning,
adaptability
Yeah.
also,
How about we
because
use
things change.
What's
I
the
think having a separate item
generate?
will
Generate.
encourage,
Yeah, like 3 years from now, if I'm
Adaptability.
not around, I want to know that that
You know.
like is on the docket,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Fun word. Build, construct,
Organize.
establish, forge, form, generate, initiate.
Then we're not using create twice.
Yeah.
Which the English person in me says agree.
Shall we forge some?
Forge.
Initiate, like,
Yeah, and then, okay, I like it.
Invent. Initiation.
Initiate opportunities to learn together, like community opportunities to learn together.
Okay, initiate.
I would say promote,
I guess.
because it's more direct, promote learning opportunities,
Opportunities, sure. promote,
Initiate.
Yeah,
And.
yeah,
right?
I think having that as like a branch of what we're doing always and having that in our minds is really important.
I like that, it's funny how we all.
Spawn is also. Just thought I threw.
I like
it there.
initiate and promote.
I like initiate and promote. I didn't
Initiate
know
and
what
promote community opportunities to learn
Organize.
together.
Collective learning.
Does that sound okay? It's sweet,
Mhm.
straight to
Yeah.
the point, we're not
That's
using a
great,
lot of
yeah.
language that I think is.
you. Yep, I love it.
Hopefully,
Thank you everyone for
I can never say that, sorry.
Super.
Superfluous, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say it, cause you heard me.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
read that line again?
Alright, so
Remember?
this line, so we have line 1. Which is the advise the town council regarding, or item 1, which is advise the town council regarding ordinances, that stops at. Family circumstances and cultural backgrounds, period, then there's a space, and then we have item 2, initiate and promote community opportunities to learn together. Period, and then space, then create greater awareness about opportunities to advance issues of age, race, gender, etc. Is that okay? Alright, and so the first change that we made was identify methods for ensuring that the system in place for community members to participate in the governance process are inclusive, accessible, and further encourage those with historical barriers to participate. Now, it doesn't quite sound right, so I think we
What about reducing barriers?
Mm-hmm,
To reduce barriers.
yeah, I like that.
where would that be?
Instead of saying encourage those with historical barriers, I like that too, because that's important.
Encourage those with historical.
But to reduce barriers to participate.
And further reduce barriers instead of all the encourage those with historical barriers.
I think that those are two different points though. One point is to reduce the barriers and another point is to encourage those who have
Right.
historically had the barriers
Mm,
to participate.
Right, I agree.
I think the first part of 4 is saying that we will reduce barriers, but with different words.
Yeah,
Because I think the first part is identify methods for ensuring that the system in place for community members to participate in the governance process are inclusive, accessible.
I will also say,
Accessible
I
and
think-
further,
go ahead.
this was,
The language is kind of trippy there, and I think we can
Yeah.
simplify it. I think we worked on this one this time.
Yeah.
And I think we can really simplify it, just saying, identify methods for ensuring that the systems in place for community participation in the governance process are inclusive, accessible, and further.
Say that again.
So instead of community members to participate,
Yeah,
community participation.
yeah,
Mhm.
I like that.
I would also say, this is me, but I have a little bit of trouble with the word encouraging for the work we do. Because I think we can do more than just encouraging. Encouraging for me is like cheering, it's like, I think we have, as a community member and, the role we play here as like possibly setting up new directors, directorship for new actions. I think it's more of like implementation rather than encouragement.
Implement, so encourage, how about if we put them both in there, because I think they're both. Well, implement, encourage.
Yeah,
those,
let's say, I'm gonna
and
give an
encourage
example, if
those
someone
that-
comes to us saying. This is just a rough example, okay, like, oh, I've been. I'm having trouble going to the thrift shop, I identify these as a accessibility issue. We hear about that, someone comes to us as a community member and say, this is happening. We're gonna be like, oh, okay, good job, keep trying.
Yeah.
This is not what we do, right? We're gonna try to find a solution and we're gonna try to not just identify, we're gonna be talking to, we're gonna be networking, we're gonna be directing actions. So,
I read this differently, I read it as like actively, like proactively encouraging people to participate in government versus just being like, it's open to everyone, we hope you come, like, because we know that a lot of people feel very disenfranchised from that and feel very intimidated by that and disempowered in certain ways, and so this way of like encouraging participation in, I feel like this one is about in the governance processes.
Can I maybe suggest, instead of saying identifying methods,
Mhm.
can we just say ensuring systems are placed for community members to participate? Because I feel like we're qualifying the.
Yeah,
Right, like
ensure
we're
that the
true.
systems in place for community, yeah, let's just put that, we'll take that
Just
little part.
identifying methods.
And I think we can also, ensure that the systems in place for community participation in the governance process are inclusive.
So
Yeah.
we have an issue
Yes.
though here, that's like, we actually can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right, we can only identify and suggest that things be done, and it is up to the, so we personally can't ensure this. I think that was part of one of the reasons why the language was the way it is, all we can do
yeah,
is
we're just
recommend.
voicing the community.
Right, we are a voice
Yeah.
and we make recommendations, it is the town council who implements any form that we do, and so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Like if we say identify the systems
Okay,
in place for because that just
Yeah.
feels a little redundant.
Yeah.
identify systems.
Identify the
community
systems
Identify
in place.
yeah.
Right, because our job, when, let's say, I'm gonna go back to that example, if we hear of a community member who's having trouble accessing a thrift shop, for example. We're gonna try to do the network, right? That's like, we're gonna identify the problem and then we're gonna try to connect people who could potentially resolve that. Is that what we do? Or are we, I mean, as a group, right, we're gonna come back, talk about it, and then we're gonna reach out to the folks who would possibly work on that.
So what about using a more
No.
active word, like,
That's what,
What's the expectation?
We
Yes, because then I,
Yeah.
are we advocating, is that what we are allowed to do? So another way of phrasing this instead is to flip it and say, advocate for inclusive and accessible systems of community
Yes,
participation in the governance process. And then we add the second.
Say that again.
Advocate for inclusive and accessible systems of community participation,
Advocate for inclusive and, but
accessible.
it's there, and I just
No, you're good.
accessible. Advocate for inclusive and accessible
Systems of community participation
Love it.
in the governance process.
That mitigate.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes, because
Advocate
then,
for inclusive and accessible
I am not a
systems.
wordsmith. I'm
No.
just-
Systems.
Oh, you were saying.
Luckily we
second
have her
part.
here.
Yeah.
Oh,
So again,
so
let's start that over,
yeah,
advocate
yeah.
for inclusive and accessible systems,
community participation
yeah, that's where I was like, community participation
in the
in
governance
the governance
process,
process,
period.
period,
And
yeah.
then the second phrase, we figure out a way to make it a little bit more active than
Yeah.
encourage, as we're saying.
Yes,
By
yes.
mitigating.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good one,
proactively
too.
invite historically marginalized communities to
Yeah.
participate.
Like that.
So, yeah.
Because they really need like to be invited, like it's not enough to just be like the doors are open, when
Right.
people have a whole lifetime of feeling like the doors aren't open.
It's,
I
do
feel like
we,
there's a lot
part of
of
our,
trust that we need to earn
Yeah,
before like that
definitely.
invitation, like.
Right.
because it's about doing the outreach and connecting first, so.
Yeah.
In my head, it's, is part of our charge to, as community members, be doing
Earn trust.
outreach and
Yes.
working in the
Come meet
community in whatever
us,
way.
yeah.
I think there's an expectation that if you're going to be on this committee, you can't necessarily just be a homebody at home, to a certain extent, we all have different, like,
Right,
oh.
it would be different
amounts that we can
sizes of
participate.
communities, but
Yeah.
those be different communities, yeah.
So
Some
then,
overlap.
I don't know what that would look like.
So something like let's wordsmith this, but the sentence as is would be proactively reach out to those with. I don't like those, but proactively reach out to those with historical barriers to participate. I don't like that. And implement ways to reduce those barriers,
But we
or we
can't
can't
implement
implement
it, yeah.
and advocate for, we already have that up there.
I don't think we
And,
necessarily have to say anything about implementation in that phrase, it's just capturing that sort of outreach and.
I agree, yeah.
Okay, so here we go. I don't like the last sentence, though.
Yeah.
Proactively reach out to,
Community members.
community members. I don't like that.
That's fine.
Those.
To invite,
With historical barriers. With historical barriers.
If we wanna say
participate.
what we really need, or tiptoe around it, right? Like historically excluded community members. We can say that because we have not created access to bring people in.
How about because I think there's both in a way. And so I think we can have a slash here, like those with historical barriers / excluded from, or no, that wouldn't work.
I do think just historically excluded is enough because the barriers are exclusionary.
Yeah.
That's true. It's redundant.
Do governance with the fewest number of people possible. It's the historical law.
I think there's something about inviting participation or inviting at least communication. Inviting their input.
Is there a way, like to Summer's point, like is there a way instead of putting the onus on the community people to come reach us, can we put the onus
That's
on
what I think we're trying to
ourselves?
do, that's what we're
To
saying.
go out there?
Yeah,
like,
that's what we're trying to
yeah.
say.
Yeah,
So this is all
saying-
about what our charge is,
Yeah.
the committee,
So
so,
instead of
yeah.
saying invite people to, like for us.
So it would
to-
be proactively reach out. to
Yeah.
Yes, so we have, yeah.
Or engage with
to-
community
I think
stakeholders.
engage is a better word to me than reach out to.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it implies like the continuing
Proactively engage.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna be calling out people.
or just, I reached out.
Fine, I like it. Proactively
Engage is a
engage
good word, yeah,
community
proactive.
members who have been historically excluded. Period.
Years
Or do we
learner
wanna
is-
have,
That's a great phrase, I think that's so,
great.
so much intention is
Yeah.
there
all
when
right,
we say that.
so this is how this,
I think
this
we-
4, you wanna listen to the 4 and then let me know if we capture the whole thing, cause we, it's important to capture what we can here. Advocate for inclusive and accessible systems of community participation in the governance process, period. Proactively engage community members who have been historically excluded, period.
Yes,
That feels
I
very.
think that's pretty
Yeah.
like straightforward.
yes.
and simple.
Were you
We're
gonna
taking
say
notes.
something, Summer?
I just didn't know if we wanted to have the past language of like historically excluded, or if we just wanna have more present day language. Just, but, cause it's so.
Actually, historically excluded is present day.
Yeah,
I think the
Yeah.
idea when people would say historically marginalized,
yeah,
it sort of referred to systems that were like, people were marginalized. But
yeah,
now when we say excluded, it actually puts the sort of center of the people creating systems that created to keep them marginalized. So they were
Yeah.
historically excluded, not because they didn't want to be part of the governance, is that there were systems created to keep them excluded. And so
yeah. No, I get all that and like, thank you, but I'm just more wondering like, okay, if I'm a committee member right now, which I am, and my charge is to go out and like actively, like proactively engage with all of the different stakeholders, I don't necessarily know that like assessing whether you've been historically excluded or not is my best lighthouse. Do you see what I mean?
I don't understand what lighthouse means.
Like best like guiding light of like what I'm doing.
I think that. Could it be said that there is an assumption in the words here that there's general outreach, but putting specifically historically excluded people
think
in
so.
the charge
First.
is kind of us saying
I-
as DEI committee, this is something we really want to make sure we're pointing out,
Yeah,
so like,
yeah. Well,
Well, I
everybody's
think
happy
the
with
first-
it,
It's your
yeah,
concern.
I do like,
I just didn't know if there was
yeah,
better
I
language.
do like the first part, I think the whole process, and I do like the idea of that comes from advocates of people with physical disabilities, where they say, if you make it inclusive with somebody who has physical disabilities, you're making it inclusive for all. And so the language in this case at the beginning is advocate for inclusive and accessible systems of community participation in the governance process, right? Where we wanna make it open to everybody at this time, and hopefully we'll capture everybody, but we also know that some people, if you don't proactively go out and engage them, may never even know that they could be engaged, and so that's that last sentence, right? We're gonna proactively engage community members who won't recognize it otherwise.
Yeah, if everybody's happy with that language, I'm happy to go with it, yeah.
That's kind of how I read it, but
No, that's how I
but
read
other
it too, I just
people
didn't know
could-
about the language.
but
You know
anyway.
what's interesting, I think this goes along with the idea of the learning curve, right? We all gonna learn through this process, eventually we might look back into it and say,
Oh,
we
God.
need to
So-
adapt this again.
I think part of this is, I think part of what we put into this was to look back at it, and you look back at it,
Yeah.
right? And we're not.
I'm gonna have to do that every
This
year.
isn't set in stone.
Living document.
And
Yeah.
it's not only is it not set in stone, if it's rejected by the town council, then we'll just go back to the whole thing. Okay.
Okay.
So at least that's my understanding. So it's not. We will work with what is given to us in the end, okay? Or they may have us go back and change things. So we had nothing changed in 5, and in change 6, we had periodically review and understand the town's internal process for addressing individual employee concerns and complaints against employees.
that was.
So that's a hard one that we have never really done, and so it's part of looking at like what is the what are our ordinance and what is like best practices when it comes to like the division of.
Is that like, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand, is that like addressing bias, if there's
Yeah,
like-
yeah, try and look and see if there's something there, I mean, we can only do so much,
So it
right?
used to be,
It's not like we're professional auditors of the system, but if there's anything that we look at it and see and be like, well, is it something that might be an issue, and then we take it to the town council and they say, yeah, this is an issue, let's change it, or they say, no, we disagree. And then we move on.
So here's my concern about these, it just, the way I read it, it feels like we are in charge of overseeing the other departments or the other
No,
folks, what they're doing
Yeah,
and
no.
making sure they are being actable and, you know.
no, I think this is more just to make sure that if there's any egregious things out there that we find, that we bring it to the attention. It's my understanding, because I don't think we're professionals.
Yeah.
What you say,
No,
I don't think it's our place to,
That's
to-
what I don't
to-
feel comfortable with.
yeah, it's not our place to be like, well, guys.
Like not judge.
It's not each
about
other.
personnel issues, which
I don't know.
wouldn't fall under the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because previously it had said, understand and promote the town's internal processes for addressing concerns. And we had ended up going with review and understand as more of an effort to say,
Understand,
we
and
have
we
to
took out the,
be aware of it.
like. Yeah,
I think it's just saying there's a role here for us to be a little bit of an oversight, you know, like.
just to be aware
Yeah.
that
Can we
Like a
say?
checks and balances kind of thing.
right,
Yeah, can we say, address, simply address, concerns and complaints, that possibly comes from, you know, something like that, so it's like, whenever that happens, it comes to us.
yeah, there's a lot of, I do. Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there are other avenues for an employee to do that.
and there's some legal avenues that we have nothing to do with, and we should never have anything to do with. We
Right.
should not be in that process, and so I'm. I think it's more like if there's something really out there that might affect employees that we can bring, be like, you know, there's no ramps at this building, and what if we get an employee, you know, I don't know, or like an employee comes in and is like, you know, I might be using a walker next time, can you, I don't know, like, I really don't.
Yeah, what's an example?
Yeah, that would go to the town first anyways, like, there's.
Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I also think that there is. And this is just, again, like you said, my wordsmithing is, some punctuation missing to make it a little clearer.
Yeah.
Because I think like what you're talking about is concerns of the employees, for whatever reason, like.
Right.
Beating around, but there is also the point of concerns about employees.
Yeah.
And so just to make it a little clearer here and processes for addressing individual employee concerns and or complaints against employees makes it a little clearer that we're kind of. Cause it's both, right? That would be
But
intention.
is that what we're doing? Cause this
Yeah,
seems
you
like
know-
interpersonal,
Yeah,
like
it's not
HR.
Yeah,
The
So I'm
original
trying to
was
think of an
just,
example, like, let's say maybe within a system, there's some rampant misogyny going on that isn't being addressed within the system, that there would be a role for us to be like, hey, we need to look at this.
the
But-
only thing
but
I
that's-
can
Is that
think
an
of
example?
that we would have, no, cause that like the only, I know, and I.
Of advice.
Yeah, and I think the only role that we'd actually have would be. Like if we see something that could be a problem, but isn't a problem, but could be a problem in the future, because like. If there's rampant misogyny, that should be going through a legal, like, steps and legal process, and we can advocate that process be in place. That's all we can do, but we can't be involved at all with any one individual.
Can we take this out?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering.
I think I would take this out because everything else that we are talking is embedded on the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I
I think-
agree, yeah.
I think we should, I don't know what you think, Malcolm. Cause like, I mean,
This is an interesting one to hear, I'm just around the table, try to be as clear as possible. On the one hand, it's like we've said. that the learning in the community, the feedback loop, getting information, getting feedback from the community to decision makers and advocating is the role of the committee. We haven't mapped out too much of the role for the committee within the structure of what, 40 some employees.
More than 60.
More than 60?
Well, they're 65 to 70.
Every time I hear there's it's bigger than I thought, I think, where have I been under a rock? It's over 60, you said.
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause there's,
So it's big enough to be its own system, so anywhere there's a system, there's issues, but so if we say, well, that's not the role of the committee. But I get it. But when there's an issue by a community member that has to do with town, this is the group that they'd want to educate.
So from the community, not, so I guess what I'm reading here is if an employee had an issue.
So,
If
The
an
wording
employee
is-
had an
Yes.
issue,
Yeah, this doesn't
That
say anything
needs to
about
go
community,
exactly.
yeah.
and
yeah,
everything else, we
that's why it was
What
like an
if
and
we-
or thing to cover.
what if we? Well, yeah, because I think the outward, what if it was more like advocate for equitable like systems within within. I don't know, the governance of it, it's
So-
more, but like
so
the act, any one individual thing that happens
Yeah.
between employee and employer, that's not something that we
So
can
thinking of them, of the
deal with.
So the way I'm looking at it is more thinking about, that's one thing that was in here that I was like, okay, I don't know, like HR type stuff. But in terms of like complaints against employees, my initial thought is like, as an example, say that I start hearing from, I have some Black friends in town who are like, oh yeah, every time I go to town hall, I feel incredibly racially profiled. That is something that is systemic within
Right.
staff in town, and therefore maybe then our role is to hear that, come to them and say, maybe we need to look into some more trainings.
Right, right.
So how do we
Yeah.
put that?
I wonder about supporting what the town is doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's a complaint that should go to the town manager.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if the town manager isn't doing something about that, then there's an issue.
Yeah,
But one would hope that
Yeah, support
within the administration.
support an equitable town administrative, like equitable town administration type of, or advocate, I don't know, does that mean?
It's not covered.
I think,
yeah, I think that then,
My question is,
So
does
just take it out,
any of the employees here in this system, they are still considered part of the community, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to identify employees as a separate community. I think they're all embedded in.
Yeah, I think that we'd be on better ground if we take this out, but we'll let the town council look it over and see what they have to say, but yeah, I get really squeamish when it comes to things that, like, we're here to advocate for great community and great relationships.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's our role to be involved in conflicts that
Yes.
that need to be taken care of at a much higher and much
Mhm.
more expensive level.
Yeah.
And I think like the examples that we're coming up with are covered under these first
Okay.
three, I think.
I would agree, especially
Right.
under number one.
We're gonna take 6 out, so we now have 5 like we started with. We just
So
promote
on
the opportunities.
We
That's
added the
because we
learning
transformed those, yeah.
we dumped them into, that's right, that's right.
Number 2, there's a new number 2, right?
The trade out was good.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's see if we can,
I
we'll
love
keep wordsmithing for another 5 minutes and then we gotta get through the rest. Sorry. If we can, right, so the next part is committee membership, and I think this is very straightforward, we just changed from 5 to 15. I mean, from, what was it?
5 to 10.
From 10 to 12 to 5 to 15. So that if we got ever to a really low number again, that we can still feel like we were a viable committee. Was that all right? I think 5 is still enough.
A minimum.
So that was the change there. And then we took out, you can see we took out we changed the second sentence. All committee members shall be appointed by the town council to serve 3-year terms. And then I took out except for the initial, because it no longer makes any sense because we're not an initial. right? So I took out all the way to the end of that sentence. And then once seated, the committee may provide recommendations regarding new members, however, the town council remains the appointing body. The council shall work to include members with a wide variety of perspectives and interests in the community. Applications for the membership shall be made on the forms used for all the other towns. Given the importance of this work, that's the next thing. It talks about, it can be people who work in the community, they don't necessarily have to live in the community. And then the committee function, number one, we didn't change. So number two, we did not change. Oh, we did. Sorry, I added something here, so you guys have to hear this. All right, so number two, the committee shall be charged with selecting its chair or co-chairs, decision-making process and bylaws if desired, as long as said procedures are not inconsistent with town rules. In the absence of a chair, the town council liaison will be acting chair until the committee selects a formal chair or co-chairs. When a chair or co-chairs have been appointed, the town manager and town council will be notified. The committee chair or co-chair will be selected yearly in November, and I just made that up. And the reason why I said November is because of the town council schedule. Like doing it in the spring is really a pain because we're in the middle of budget and it's no fun. November is around after elections. We'll know who's on committees and everything like that. And so I just said November. Is that okay with everybody? It's just, this is just the procedural stuff that wasn't said and now it's said. That way we can change leadership yearly. And I think that's it's a good thing. That it's not like once a chair is selected, it's set in stone. All right. And then in 4,
But they can be voted in again, right?
yeah, oh, this is in consensus. Yeah, this is all by consensus. We all come together. Yeah.
Did you mean voted, or you mean can they renew?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's up to the committee who they want as committee chair or co-chair.
Oust them.
You've been ousted. Right. And then in 5, let's see, in 4, we changed the town council liaison will provide monthly reports of general committee activity with the committee itself reporting directly to the town council yearly. I changed that to yearly because I think I will be saying what we're doing every town council meeting. And then yearly, we can have a summary and say, this is what we did this year. What we have not done, and this is what we'll have to start implementing in the fall, sorry, it's gonna be kind of crazy, or this summer, is yearly the committee will review the committee charge, accomplishments, and address any concerns with the town council, right? So we'll have to talk about our accomplishments and our committee charge, which is what we're doing right now. So we're at least doing part of it, right? And then the other part was the work plan, which we don't have yet. The committee will develop a general work plan to discuss with the town council and the town manager. As with other town committees, they will have a general work plan, but will not be construed as limiting the committee from identifying time-sensitive or high-priority issues to work on or fielding requests for support from the town council and or staff. And my suggestion is that we set up our work plan in September. And the reason being is that we will, I don't have this in here, and I want there to be some flexibility because it might change from year to year. But if we set up a work plan in September, we'll be done with the budget, which ends in July, and we'll all be back from whatever vacations we're doing, right? So that gives us from September to mid-October to make a work plan, and that gives us then from mid-October all the way till the next year. And then somebody, the committee chair will have been on the committee for a year, right? Because they'll be appointed in November. They'll be at least on a year, and then they'll help start the next whatever round of work. So there'll be a committee chair who has some history developing the next work plan, and then they can get a new chair to implement it if they want. Does this sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just took out the whole committee timeline thing because it doesn't apply to us anymore. As far as I can tell. Is that good? All right,
Great, thank you very much, Matt. And
do you
everyone.
have any questions?
So like, just so that I understand the words work plan, that's just
Yeah.
our goals for the year of things that we wanted to do? Or is
Yeah.
that our advisory capacity, or
No,
is
it's the
that
things we
like
wanna do,
trying to make
our work plan.
access
our-
to race, gender, all of
Yeah, it can
these,
be,
right? Like
it's kind of the
that's
goal
the
of the year,
work plan.
right? And I think it's helpful,
Religion.
it's helpful because we get these things that come up during the year, right? But there might be this big working thing, like you're saying, like we want to promote X, right? That's more general.
All right, so like, there'll be
We don't
probably
forget
things that'll
that.
be always there on the work plan,
Right.
right? And there'll be things that'll be always new ideas.
Yeah, the work plan will be updated.
I support the idea that we look at the charge and say, okay, this upcoming year.
Yeah.
How do we fulfill our charge?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Some of it might be advocacy and
outreach.
program and so forth.
Which is great, I'm just, based on point six, it's like there is no budget or financial resources.
No,
That's what I was like.
we would have to go and ask.
Oh, I see.
We
So
can,
they might-
we can always ask for money, it doesn't mean we'll get it.
Okay.
So like this year, we decided to do a retreat.
Yeah.
And we did, and
Yeah.
then we decided to do the book discussion group, and that's happening, so like, we did like plan some things that are happening. right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's actually, I need to go back and we actually have already forgotten a bunch of stuff that we had done.
We said, what time is that in the town? Okay, there's a 10-year thing, how do we
Yeah.
contribute
Yeah.
to the
how do
10-year?
you
We
get
did,
to
We said, what time is it for
Yeah.
the staff, they're doing staff development with the
Yeah.
consultant from.
Yeah, we set that all up and
We
went.
said that.
How do we
actually
did a
felt like
nurture
community,
that?
um,
I think we have nurtured that, I think
Yeah.
we gotta come back to this.
Yeah.
But anyway, we said,
We've
what year
actually
is it, what
done-
time is
Got
it,
some
how do we
things
do?
that-
Yeah, yeah.
We do.
So we forget,
Yeah.
we forget what we do
Posting
because we
ready.
check it off and then we forget, right? And so part of the work plan is that at the end of the year, then we can, when we go and we tell when we tell the town council, this was our work plan, this is what we got done, and this is what's being transferred to next year's work plan. And this is what we now have taken off the plate or are ignoring. Because we don't have any. Yeah, so this is
Phrase.
so this is, and I have to go through because I want us to give a report to the town council next September as we make, this is what we did this last year and this is what we're doing next year. So that's my kind of semi-plan, somewhere between September and mid-October.
That'll also be really nice to have a record easily accessible for any new folks who come in to be like.
So part of this too is what we've been advocating for the Ware Walk that's coming up when Margot's not here to give us an update on it. And then, and so let's move on to the other items in 15 minutes. I want to be done soon, so we can know. So we're gonna, so Lori, you've looked into the, and it looks like if we decide to do an international movie night, we could get two movies for like $320 if we jump on it, but what I wanna do is have you take a look at the list for this group.
Okay.
So we need to forward it
So,
to
yeah,
everybody.
I can do that, I think the list is pretty long.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked to see if you can filter, you may be
Yeah.
able to filter to see,
Yeah.
what is in.
Okay.
So
Can you
talk to-
Fine, can you
Get your
forward that to us?
And so what I need is somebody to volunteer to write a mini grant proposal for 2 movies at the park this time.
Okay.
So the question too,
Yeah,
though,
I can't
another
write it
question,
because I'm
it's
on
not just the
council.
license.
Oh, it can be.
Okay.
what can-
Yeah.
You gotta find out what you're gonna show it on, right?
Yeah, I wanna show, so I want it to be written, so I think we can get 750. And I think the license will be anywhere between 320 for our initial, and we'll get 2 out of that, usually it's like 400 for 100,
Well, I
so,
think she's saying 330 each,
oh,
or
okay,
2 or more, so it's,
okay.
it depends
I
on the crowd
misread that.
size. Yeah, it depends on the crowd size, I said we probably wouldn't have more than
No,
100.
we won't.
Yeah, so it's 360 to 450 per title, but if you do 2, it's 330 per license. So that's 660.
So
Okay.
that's 660, 6 for 2, and then we can get 7, so we have $100 more, and maybe I can get a couple of people to chip in some extra money, and we can get one of those blow up screens.
Oh my gosh, you can rent, oh, sorry.
We can rent those.
Yeah, from the camp.
Right, yeah. I was
Let's
wondering
rent
about
from
that.
the campus.
Yes.
Let's rent.
Because we do movies on the mall, like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that,
Yeah.
how that goes.
From campus, because this is, we want campus kids to come to this and to kind of throw it. This is the whole point, is to have international students say, this is an international movie for my country.
Yeah.
And this
And
is
they'll
what
flock
we
to it.
love about this, and this
So,
is what.
and that's what I
right.
was going to ask, international students, they cannot be paid
Nope.
for any of these jobs. But can we give them a little reward, some kind of? They love these things, you know, like.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Just to
yeah.
incentivize them
Yeah.
to participate, doesn't need to be financial, just.
Yeah, like we can make
letter
a,
from the town,
Yeah, yeah,
something,
certificate, yeah,
something,
absolutely.
You know, okay.
certificate, community I need to talk to, this is totally down Dan, the merits.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll have one, but if we don't, he'll make some sort of like certificate of
Awesome.
community excellence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
So we need somebody to write a grant.
Yeah.
So I need-
details to
I need
talk
somebody
about
to write a community, the town council mini grant for
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
I just sent you the email.
And I would do it for the whole $750 for 2, so $660 for the 2 movie licenses, and then the $100 to rent some sort of projection device and the blow up
And sound,
and sound.
And
Yeah.
so,
yes.
And we'll plan to do this at the park and with a rain, with the rain. If there's rain, we'll try and do it at the art center.
This woman who sent the email too, you can call her and just talk through these things.
Yeah.
Because obviously they do this all the time, so she may have some recommendations. So it's a company called Swag. That we have in the past gotten a site like a facility license, but because it's outside, it's individual titles. So,
Okay,
yes,
that's
you can
wonderful.
call her, you can have that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I also I didn't have a chance to reach out to them, but I got a text to reach out to the Black Bear movie
Oh, yeah.
theater.
Okay.
Because apparently they have supported events before, for free for students. And I was wondering if we could reach out to them.
Yeah.
Explain the situation, and they could probably offer something like a movie night for free there. If you guys are okay with that, it's kind of outside, a little bit outside, it's in. I feel like that's still Orono, it feels like. it's Orono.
No, I mean, that's always great. I just wanna have a community event in a park where
I
people
like
see
that
and they
too.
walk by. and-
One thing doesn't need to eliminate the other, if that possibility happens for free.
Yeah, that'd be
You
great.
know,
And we can,
we'll reach out to them
we can
too.
some chips.
Yeah, we can just, we can buy the popcorn.
Yeah.
Somebody to donate, like, you lend use of one of those popcorn.
IMRC has one. IMRC has one.
It'd be a-
Alright, so
Yeah, okay.
we've got our marching orders here. Let's,
So you're saying the grant.
I'm gonna say that the March for the EIB community was excellent. There was a lot of people.
There were.
And we went like an hour longer than normal
Yeah.
and people stayed and it was really fun.
Yeah.
So it was a really great event, really fun. And I think this will have to, if you're up for it, we'll do another one next year, cause like there'll be
Next year.
Or next fall.
Sooner than that.
maybe.
We
I'm
can do-
fine whenever, I just don't wanna burn you out.
And this is what excites me, it's when there's people who, cause most of the job is fighting systems, right, advocacy. But then when people come together to learn, that's such a great, I mean, it was long. Yes, I mean, I did talk, but the people were so engaged, like they just kept asking more and more questions and like giving me scenarios, and then I was like, okay, I'm just telling you, you're here later. So.
And I had to miss it, so we need to do it again.
Yeah.
So if you wanna do it more frequently and you want someone to help support you, I would love to get involved with that as well.
Yeah.
I know we have.
Yeah. I think we might need a bigger venue. too.
Well,
We are gonna build a library.
if you wait 2 or 3 years,
All
they'll be
the-
a large room for you.
Yeah.
That's a little.
But maybe,
too long.
I'm wondering if we might do another one now that people know about it at the Keynote Center, that'd be much bigger.
I've actually never been in there.
Yeah, I mean, the other space that we've used in the past for concerts is the Performing Arts Center.
Yes, that would also.
I mean, that's kind of big.
That's even, I think the next one would be Ed Anderson. That would be.
I think that Anderson's pretty booked up a lot,
I don't think at night,
Oh,
yeah, well, I don't know.
I'll
maybe
figure it
not.
out.
Could be
Is.
some.
Right,
but you can.
alright,
Yeah.
well,
There are options.
we'll
Yeah,
figure it out,
no,
we'll
it's
figure it out.
great.
Alright, book club, how's that going?
I think it's going pretty well. I mean, I did a 4-part, I decided to do it as a 4-part book discussion group. And there's 4 parts to the book, and so I just decided to do it with the parts of the book. We just did the second part, which is the crazy one, because there's like 11 chapters, and there were like 3 chapters in the first part, and like 11 chapters in the second part. I just decided to do it this way, because I had to pick something.
Yeah.
So, so next time we'll be doing part 3. There's a handful of people coming, but
That's
it's like
great.
lively discussion, and
That's awesome.
I think it's the kind of thing that can grow.
Yeah.
What's nice too is I've noticed who's attending, and it's not necessarily the regular book club people.
All right.
So,
That's even
That's
better.
Yeah.
great.
yeah,
Yeah, it's happening, and there's great discussion happening, and this last time was a little bit wild because it was like so many chapters, but I told people we could add a time at the end to do more on part 2, so, but next time we're doing part 3, if anybody wants to come, part 3, sacred instructions.
I thought it was really neat.
And there's not that many, oh, you thought it was beautiful, thank
Really
you, because that was the rapid fire week, so like, thank you, I'm glad it felt so.
But, alright, and then the last one, and this is an important one, and I wanna delegate it, and this is, it's the Wabanaki Reach program, right? And there has been suggestions that, that the Wabanaki Reach, that the town council should, vote for money so that the Wabanaki Reach could do a program
Yes.
here with the town staff, right? And so whoever takes this job on needs to look up the Wabanaki Reach. There are 2 or 3 different programs, okay? And then get back to us as a group like this week, because I really do want to suggest, because it goes out,
Super swamped.
yeah, no worries, or 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, I can
2
manage,
weeks.
2 weeks, this
2
week
weeks.
is Pride Week on
Yeah,
campus,
never
next
mind,
week
never-
is
yeah, 2
Diversity
weeks.
Week, so it's
2
not
weeks.
twice.
I don't think it's like that. The only rush about it is if we say we're suggesting to the town council that they do this, it's like 6 months, like they're so booked up.
Oh,
So we wanna make the suggestion, we want the council to be thinking about it so that they can do it within a year. or
So
so.
when's the next one, council?
There is another thing so the other reason I'm not too worried, we don't wanna, if we're not too swamped by it, is that there is a whole bunch of stuff that we're doing with the Penobscot Nation, and some of that will be ending here in June, and they may suggest that we do this anyways. But I think it's good for us to spearhead at least and get the ball rolling.
the Wabanaki Reach, I mean, depending on which one you want, they do this mapping activity that I had the privilege of doing a few times over 7 years now. It is a paradigm shift in our brains, because they come, it's
Let's do it.
amazing. Have you done it?
No, I'm just saying, let's just go ahead
Oh,
and pick that one.
yeah, like they bring
Whatever it
this
is, yeah.
life-size map of Maine. And they get people to be involved, and they want at least between 40 people to 50 people involved. And then they have facilitators, and it is literally like it was for me, a paradigm shift, like my whole brain switched in the course of those 2 hours.
Wow.
Alright, well,
So is it just a matter of making a paragraph of recommendation?
yes, a
identifying the
paragraph,
program?
that's all you need, a paragraph
Okay.
of just just writing a paragraph, and then also saying we would suggest this program, and if you can't do it, do this program, right?
Like here's one.
No, it's the 6-hour Wabanaki Reach program or the 2-hour one, basically. there's two different times they
Oh.
do, there's one that's like 6 hours and
And there's
one
a
that's
price difference, I'm
Yeah.
guessing what
Yeah,
you're saying.
the
like
2
the-
hours is 500. I don't know what the 6 hours, I don't think I went through these hours, but the 2 hour one
Yeah.
is.
So anyways.
Yeah.
And I don't care, I don't know, and we have to be also cognizant that the staff hasn't. I can say that,
Yeah.
right, so
It's hard to do 6 hours.
yes,
Yeah.
and so, and especially all at once, cause they have to run the town, you know, so that 2 hours.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe
Fine, that-
doing like
Around the-
2 hours ones
Yeah.
or 3 2-hour ones where the staff can shift in.
Yeah.
And we make it, I think that might be,
Yeah.
like, if we're cognizant of that, that might be the
We
best.
can
way to
also
run it.
see if we can, I don't know if the library has Dawn Land. Where we could encourage the town to watch it before they come in. And so between now and when we actually, so just saying that could be also a suggestion.
That's a good
because
idea.
It's not.
I haven't even
I like
seen that.
that, that goes,
Maybe we can have that. be
goes
a
along with
thing.
the idea of the learning.
Yeah, this is that, it's so
Yeah.
important, as we all have to do.
Great, so my task is to send you all the finished. Town council committee on diversity, inclusion and belonging charge. So I'll send that to you tomorrow. If I get, 3 or 4 people who say, look it over and say, yeah, that's what we were discussing, and there's no horrible, like, that I didn't totally butcher the language and or say something that we really don't wanna say, then I can pass that on and maybe make it a little.
Even though it wasn't on this agenda,
Yeah.
there was also Mariana sent the email from the representative.
Yeah.
And so were we gonna bring this forward tonight about
We had mentioned you were gonna do it as a special topic of interest since it-
interacting
make it on the-
or not interacting?
Yeah,
Nice. She hopes to bring something forward in the next few weeks, so any information or help we might provide soon would be very helpful.
sorry, I may have missed that.
I missed
So it was, I had sent it a couple days ago. So basically, Laura Stupica of Bangor connected with me recently, and she is working on gathering information about local ordinances or policies, especially in Maine or New England, but specifically around the Bangor area about regulating how law enforcement interacts with ICE. Essentially, as you know, there are different states or cities that have made themselves like sanctuary cities or just places where the role is kind of like, no, we will not work with ICE in this way. So I believe part of the reason she's bringing it forward is that Ombreen Marana is proposing something for the city of Bangor to kind of put something together in that vein. And so any information about surrounding towns or municipalities in terms of also maybe working on something would help provide more power to that, and in return also could reflect back on other surrounding areas. So really, she found out I was on the committee and just asked if I would ask and see what information can we get from the council, can we at least ask the council if they want to talk with her, or just anything really that she can start to work with.
When is she planning to do at some of these
Yeah,
whatever events or what?
so
I'm so sorry I missed this. I don't know how I did.
yeah,
Be good to find out if there is a policy.
yeah, and I know there's also in the email with me, she's also has CC'd like Lori Osher and Harvey Grace. So it's they're kind of working together on something, so it's not in an email, but she told me that and this was like 3 days ago, told me that in the next 2 weeks or so is when they're gonna try to put something together, because I'm trying to find Green, I remember exactly what Umbreen is pulling for to try to figure out when that would be. Yeah, so Umbreen is proposing a ban on main police contracts with immigration officials. So. Not sure when that would be. Forward, I'm not super familiar with, like legislator schedule. Like the legislative
I'm
schedule.
puzzled because I did not know there was a contract, but.
Well, there might not be, but
Okay.
it might, I'm not sure if there is, but a lot of places are preemptively a lot of representatives are trying to preemptively put together these bans just because they want to protect
Yeah.
communities.
Lori made a great point, that we should, one of us will reach out to Dan and just ask
Okay.
what's the policy with working with the ICE in the town, both with the police and then we can start moving from there. And I'll email this committee on like, if it's even come up here, I'm sure that it has, and I'm sure that there's some sort of policy that we want.
Could we recommend that the council proactively like work on a policy rather than wait until like, oh, now it's really affecting our community?
Yeah,
more?
if there's
Like,
no policy, I think let's look and see if there's a
Yeah,
policy and then
right.
let's discuss it.
Especially considering the university in town and how many
Yeah,
folks in the university will be here on student visas, on work visas, on grants. And we've already seen how that is not necessarily protecting folks.
And I think-
communities.
rather
One-
than waiting a month to discuss it, could you say if there is no policy, we advise, like, we recommend that,
I
like.
think we need to get the
work on
town, I
policy?
think this one. I understand the expediency of it, but this one will need to bring in both our police chief into the discussion and our town manager, which means we're looking at a month before we can probably get them together, but I would like that. So let's find out what the policy
We can
is,
call ourselves to an additional meeting.
and we can call ourselves to an
Wait a
addition.
month.
Yeah.
We could call a listening session if
Yeah.
needed, like to amplify,
That's true.
illuminate and learn what we need to learn on this. If it's not gonna fit in 5 minutes of the
I
event.
don't know if saying we would like to proactively start
Yeah.
creating a policy. I don't know if that feels preemptive to me, like,
Yeah.
because we're not saying get it done right now, we're just
Right.
saying, can we start the process?
I'm fine with us, let's look and see, like, I'm fine with us being like, this is what we'd like to have in it.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
don't
having
think
some
that's
words
totally
together
right.
about this committee is advising the town of Orono to review its policies, and if there's not a policy, this
Proactively
to begin to create one, and then
Wait.
that in itself as kind of an official committee recommendation could help.
Yeah, let's write that up and we'll put it,
Yep,
and we'll put it out for this,
I also want to say that UMPD, the campus police, has done a lot, and has connections with like the ICE officers in Bangor. That's the words that they have communicated to the rest of student life, saying that if they were to come on campus, like they would have to go through UMPD because they're all connected, and that they would need a warrant or, something specific.
okay,
Our chief on campus sort of communicates that he trusts that there won't be any sort of ambushing like some other institutions have experienced. And that's the biggest concern.
Yeah.
And the concern also was like, but what if there is, right? And it was a good explanation that UMPD also has a jurisdiction in Orono into some parts of Old Town, all the way up to like right before Milton or someplace. I don't know, Milford, yes. And saying that students can like hit a panic button on their like BlackBerry Safe app, and so that in communication, we've been sort of disseminating to our contacts. We do have the know your rights cards that we have in English and in Spanish and English and Farsi. I have it in English and Creole and English and Arabic, that we're telling people that if this were to happen, maybe you're Hannaford or walking out into the parking lot, because it just seems so random that things like this are happening, is like, what can we do? And so far UMPD is like, you call us.
This is a big issue and Lori, please, like, don't feel like you have to come to, I know that you're super busy, but usually, in the past, we used to have a meeting on Tuesday. Would you guys be opposed to having just like a half-hour meeting next Tuesday on this issue? Cause this is a bigger thing and it actually hits me,
And I would love to know how that will go too
Yeah.
and participate, because I heard from students concerned about.
and if I can't do it this Tuesday, I'll try and set up another Tuesday because we might need to get Dan. Our chief, just to ask what's the policy, could you advise us? Yeah, it's worrisome, and
Yeah.
it's worrisome that people have been physically.
Well, the hope would be too that he could reassure just.
Yes,
as a-
exactly.
or the campus police reassure
Yeah.
you that it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
And that's the
My
big
biggest
deal.
concern is outside campus, not so much on campus. I think on campus things are more.
I mean, especially the grad student they took from Tufts, she was like walking out of her home.
Yeah.
And the
they
first
are
thing they
aggressive.
did was take away her phone.
Yeah, she was
And
talking on the phone.
so it was,
I will loop us all into some sort of trying to an email meeting, and whoever can make it to a special meeting, advising the Dan. Then let's do that.
I'll also try to grab some more information,
Yeah.
like, specifically, like I found the text that Orono has proposed and whatever. There's and if anybody's, there is also a Bangor Daily News article about that particular proposal, but I can't look up right now, it's paywall, but
Good, well, thank you, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
thank you
adjourn
guys
it so that we can get the people who should be on their way home. Or our staff on their way home, but thank you, this is really great. Yes,
Hopefully quick.
but we're adjourned now, we can.